And I just want to make sure now that you've started the broadcast that the show your screen is clicked on under sharing.
For Nancy, you mean?
Yes. Well, did you just start the broadcast or did Nancy?
I did, yes.
Okay, so you haven't made her a presenter yet.
I just sent the request over.
Okay.
All right.
Nancy will have to do it. We lost you, Nancy.
It's okay, I'm right here. I'm back. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Okay, so under sharing, it says show my screen on the left, an arrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to click on that.
Showing the screen at all?
No.
Hold on a second. Okay. Hey, Pammy, can you take this back and see where things are? I'm pressing show my screen and it's not showing it. Hold on one second.
Did you get an invitation from Pamela? Oh, there's your screen. It's up.
Okay.
Your screen is showing. What's important about
that's Pammy's screen.
Oh, so Pamela, can you start the recording? Remember, so this morning, it's under the sharing box, and on the left, you hit that arrow in the control panel. Nancy, we're seeing your screen with the formula.
That's Pam's screen.
Oh.
Yeah. For some reason, it's not allowing my screen. Okay, go ahead, press it. Ta-da! There it is. Okay.
So Nancy, I'm sorry, before you begin, we want to make sure this is recording.
Okay.
So Pamela, on the control panel, can you go up to sharing? And then underneath that arrow on the left, click on that.
It says that the session is being recorded, Leslie.
But recording is not the same as sharing.
Oh,
showing
it's sharing.
The screen on the recording, unfortunately. Yeah, we found that out yesterday. Do you see it, Pamela? Is she muted?
She's muted.
Oh, I'm muted. I'm sorry. So it says I'm getting show my screen, main screen, which is what I'm doing.
Okay, so if you click on that, then that will be recorded.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not able to see both my screen and the webcam at the same time, though. That's the problem.
You won't. If you're the main person, you won't.
Okie doke. Bye,
Yep.
Nancy.
But
okay.
We see you.
Okay.
Can you go? There you go. Go back to that slide. Perfect.
All righty.
Okay, everyone. Hi, welcome. We're fine. All is well. So, usually we give this class in person, and I miss being in person with everyone. Coming back to every year, coming back to East West, and Ben Lomond is my big treat for myself to be with my herbal family. But be that as it may, here we are, and we're going to make the best of this. And this class is, I love this class because when you're just getting started, and when I was just really getting started with TCM formulas versus Western herbal formulas and Western herbs, you think to yourself, there's hundreds of them, and what are the absolute core formulas that I should have in my practice or have in my formulary? And so what I love about this class is these are the core formulas. These are the formulas that you'll reach for all the time. I have them in my, in my formulary. They're the base of which I work with relative to my cases. So it's a, it's a stepping off place. Really, there's 25 formulas that we're going to cover in 3 hours. And that doesn't seem like a lot of formulas, but we're really going to dive into them. I want to share some images of tongues that might be related to the formula. I want to talk about different kinds of histories, the pulse. So we're going to really kind of dive into these formulas more from a clinical perspective, meaning here's the formula, here are the actions, here are the herbs, but how do we use them in our practice? Because ultimately, we can talk about each one of these herbs for hours and hours and hours, but the best way to use the formulas is to use the formulas. So we'll get started, and we're going to start with Ba Wei Di Wang Wang, or Ba Wei Di Wang Tong, and I actually like it as a tong. So let's roll to the first. So the actions are it tonifies the yang and warms the kidneys, and also warms the lower extremities. And we're going to talk about what that really means. And you can see the herbs listed there. So some items for this formula. You need to have a pale tongue, and the pulse will be slow, and it might be a little weak. It might be a little thin. So I'll show you an image of a pale tongue. You can see it. That's a pale tongue. And also you can see how pale the lips are too. So great formula. So tonifying the yang, bringing the yang upward. Contraindications for this particular formula would be it's really not for people who have excess heat. And of course, futsa or aconite is probably one of the hottest herbs we have. So that will lead you to believe that if you see any sign of heat, any pink, red, or red tip, you may not be using this. You might, but you may not. And you definitely want to be careful with gastrointestinal weakness with this particular formula. If they really don't have a lot of digestive power, or if the formula seems appropriate for them, you definitely may want to support their digestion while they're taking this formula. So some of the history that you'll hear that might be really correlated with this formula: lower back ache, coldness, definitely coldness in the extremities. Maybe their extremities, maybe they might say to you, it's really hard for me to get down on the floor and up off the floor. I hear that a lot, and I think Ba Wei Di Wang Tong. Impotence, you might hear men speaking of their knees getting cold or their legs feeling weaker. They might say, my leg's feeling weaker, and if you dig a little bit deeper, they'll say that they've seen changes in their reproductive prowess, okay? They might have swollen prostate. There may be some urination issues. You may have urination at night. Sometimes with Ba Wei Di Wang Wang, some of the history may be more of, you'll hear that they'll have, cough or asthma, but not like a rolling cough, like a cough like well, I call it a yin deficiency cough, where you go like that. Like it's just this like annoying little kind of cough, right? And you definitely will have dryness in the lungs too. You may have other issues that are going on. So for women, they may be menopausal, There may be skin issues that may be appropriate where you might use this formula, like eczema or vaginal itching, urticaria. So, but you definitely want to see the whole disease state here, and you definitely want a more pale tongue, and you definitely want the pulse to be slow or weakish or thin. So this is this is one of those formulas that put it in your formulary. You won't believe how many times you reach for it. Spectacular formula. So the herbs are futsa, guitza. So guitza are cinnamon twig. Shudi, so that's prepared Rehmannia. And not even prepared Rehmannia can be a little sticky, gooey. So again, that's the part where, you know, if they have weak digestion, you might want to reduce the shudi a little bit, you know, when you're doing your formulations. Shansao, Shansao Cornus, and Mudampi, Mutan, and Poria. Poria, great mushroom for modulating water in the body, you know, permeability of the cells for water leaving the cells and coming back to the cells appropriately, and making sure that you don't have pooling water in the interstitial tissue. So that's Ba Hui Di Wang Tong. So okay, that's our first formula. Any questions? Let me see if
I'm not. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the questions box yet, Nancy.
Okay, great. Alrighty then. Let's move on to Lue Di Wang Guan, or Rehmannia 6. So you have the Rehmannia 8 and you have the Rehmannia 6. This is definitely a foundational formula. A lot of formulas that address yin deficiency are built from this formula. This is the base, and then you build from it. It was first presented in the TCM Pharmacopoeia in 1198 BC. It was a long time ago, 1,000 years ago. So this is one of those formulas that's just been around forever, and it is a proven formula. This is a liver, kidney, yin deficiency, and essence deficiency formula. And one of the ways that I use this formula is if I see people who have like this, what I would call like a parasympathetic nervous system deficiency, where they just never repair and relax, right? They're constantly like this, and they've completely blown themselves out. You'll see a little reddish tongue. There'll be a shiny appearance on the tongue. The pulse will be thin. The pulse will be rapid. Let me go find a picture here for you so you can see this. So, yeah. So I chose this tongue for you. This is sort of reddish and shiny, and so it's this tongue right here. So it's reddish. This is almost crimson and shiny, but do you see the depression here in that kidney area too? So this tongue might definitely be a tongue that might need Rehmannia 6, and you might have to adjust it a little bit because that's a crimson tongue for sure. But you know, if you have that redness where you're seeing false heat come to the tongue, definitely. So prepared Rehmannia, Cornus, Dioscorea, water plantain, and Mudampi and Poria. So it's kind of a smaller formula than the Rehmannia 8 formula. Really important part of our formularia. Contraindicated in those that have, again, weak digestion, or you know, have a lack of long signs and symptoms. Part of the history that you're taking, you'll hear them say, you know, get dizzy a lot, you know, I get these sore throats that just come and go all the time, or I get really hot in the afternoon and I'm exhausted in the afternoon. I just can't seem to get out of my own way. They might have night sweats too, and that includes men and women, because men also go through a little bit of an andropause too. They'll have thirst, they may have dryness, Sometimes they'll have 5-palm heat, burning in the hands, the palms, and sometimes it's just in the feet. So they might say, I stick my feet out of the covers at night because the soles of their feet are burning. And that, I hear that a lot in my practice with people who are kind of going into menopause and andropause. They might have toothache, they have the kind of kidney yin deficiency where they have toothache. They may have lower back pain with that kidney yin deficiency. They may have eye disorders, and they may be worried about their eyesight. So they might say to you, I'm really worried, my eyesight's really changing. And then they'll have this other part of the history. And that's that liver and kidney yin deficiency that's happening. Some other disease states that you may use this formula with other formulas might be Addison's disease, where the kidneys are collapsed. There's just no the adrenal glands are really not working correctly, and you may have hyperthyroidism, and then they may also complain of things like deafness or tinnitus in the ear. So you may have that eye-ear thing going on. This would be probably a better formula, and you can build from there. Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? These are your good basic formulas. So, great.
No questions, Nancy.
Excellent. Okay, moving on. All right, I want to make sure I have the right picture here. Yeah, slide number 4. Okay. Zibidi Wangwan, Anna Marina, Philodendron, and Romania. I've been on this formula. Pretty amazing formula. So the tongue will be red body, little to no coat. You might have a very stripped coat. You might even have like a little patchwork coat if it's early on. The pulse will be thin. It'll be a little rapid. Let me get the picture of the slide here. It's slide number 4. Red with no coat. Oh, this is perfect. It's a really good picture, red with no coat. Okay. So, its actions, it's for yin deficiency, kidney and liver yin deficiency, nourishes the yin, it's a nutritive, it clears deficient fire. So from going back, if you're thinking, well, how do I tell the difference between Romania 6 and Anna Marina? There's a little bit more deficient fire. And so, this is a formula that we often use for menopause and andropause, and and steaming bone disorder. So steaming bone, and I'm laughing because my brother and I have this thing where we go, oh, steaming bone disorder, and it's how we remember this. Steaming bone disorder is really interesting, where you have this heat that just comes off the body, and the person, they're tired. They're very, very tired. They have night sweats, and they just literally, this heat, this comes off their body, with enormous amounts of fatigue. So that's steaming bone disorder, and it's pretty advanced liver and kidney yin deficiency. It's almost going towards, where you're losing essence, and you're also, maybe going towards sort of a collapse. So, contraindication would be a damp and excess situation. You don't want to do that. You don't want to use it with a dampness or an excess situation. You can use it, again, for night sweats, really kind of more severe menopausal symptoms, more severe andropause symptoms. And it's, again, one of those basic formulas that really have it in your formulary, because you may have quite a few people who are, in that stage of life, that are coming in, that have really burnt the candle at both ends. And in addition to that, they're not doing anything to restore themselves. I will say this, so Anna Marina and Philodendron, are so gorgeous together. Zimu and Huangbai, they're oftentimes, and I've seen people make like they'll make a 3 or 4 formulation from those, just those 2 herbs together as a Duyao, but then they'll add another herb or add 3 herbs to it. But this is a standalone formula. You can use it just the way that it is. Again, Shudi Wong, again, for those who have digestive or spleen qi deficiency or have digestive issues where they just don't have a lot of fire in the top part of their GI tract at all, in the stomach or spleen, you know, you have to be careful. You need support so they can digest this formula pretty well. Poria, Mutan, Zerzi, Shanyao, and Shansuyu. Really, really beautiful formula. It's rescued me on a couple of occasions. So does anyone have any questions about this? We're just flying through these formulas.
No
Any
questions,
questions?
anybody? Really? We've gone through
Questions?
3 great formulas. None yet? I guess not, man.
Okay.
Hmm.
It's all good. It's all good with me. I'm good with it. Okay. Dongui for Siwu Tang. And you know, it's so I wanna just add this little, you can take it as a san, you know, as a powder, absolutely. But you know, when the traditional formula says tang, I really have found in my practice that the tang's the best. If you take it as a tang, it just, Pam's shaking her head, yes, she's shaking her head, yeah. It really does. Pam and I have fooled around with a couple of formulas together, and we created this formula, and we decided that it was better as a tang, and she made it up, and she was like, wow, that's so much better as a tang. So it does. It's a very real thing. I know sometimes it's a little, you know, it's inconvenient sometimes to have tongs, like you got to bring them to work, or you know, you have to mix them up, and then you got to put them in the fridge, and you know, sometimes the compliance on tongs is low. I will say it's not the highest compliance, but oh man, I think they really work like that. So this dangui for, or the siwu tang as a tang, is just, it is primo, so beautiful. So it's the mother formula for blood deficiency patterns. I had a little bit of a blood deficiency issue this week. I got the mother of all bloody noses. Don't even ask how the thing started, but I lost 3 pints of blood. And other than Women's Precious, I actually had some Siwu Tang, of course, in my formulary, and I went, oh, Siwu Tang, I'm gonna take some. And it seemed to do the trick. So yeah, fabulous base formula. So you can build from here. It's simple. You have 4 gorgeous herbs. You have prepared Romania, Dangui, Ligustricum, Chuanzhang, and white peanut or baishao. Now, one of the things that I found in my practice, and this is really too, Chuanzhang for women sometimes can make your periods a little bit late. So you know, if you're someone who's like you're really on time and you're like clockwork, and you take this formula, there's a lot of Chuanzhang in it, you may find your period kind of just gets a little late. So you can reduce the Chuanzhang in if you want it a little bit. So I found that working, you know, with Chuanzhang in formula with women. So the tongue is pale. Hi, Erica. All right, unmute yourself. Can we unmute Erica? I think she said she has a question.
I have a question. There's actually no place, once you're a panelist, you can't ask questions.
Oh,
Really?
really?
You can't find it on there.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But my question is, would you have a woman continue to take this while they're menstruating?
You know, again, if you find that it's not just about the menstruation, it's the whole cycle. So the only way you would know that you're slowing, if the cycle's retarding, is if you go through a whole month and all of a sudden the cycle is a little slower, and then you take it for a second month and the cycle's really slow, and then you have to kind of, you know, look at the tongue, take the pulse, look at the history, and think, you know, do I just need to reduce the amount of Chuanzhang, or do I need a different herb? So, and you know, again, that's case by case. Oh, wait a second. I think I see something here. Everyone, type your questions in the chat window.
That's me. So, yeah.
Oh, and salvia. So Michael said salvia is a single herb alternative for Siwu Tang. That's what he said. So, oh yay, the chat works. Okay. I thought the question box was going to work, so I had that open, but the chat works. So type it in the chat. So great. Pale tongue. I had a picture of a tongue that's a really good Siwu tongue. So let me get that for you. Just a second. Where did I put it? I have all these books. Oh, I got this book. Look at this book. I love this book. This is such a cool book. It's really old. I got it on one of my trips out to Santa Cruz, and it has the most. It's the most unbelievable book on. It's on tongue diagnosis. Zerlin Chen and Mei Feng Chen, The Essence and Scientific Background of Tongue Diagnosis. It took my tongue diagnosis to a whole nother level. So if any of you look, I love it. It's a really good book. You know, okay. 5. Number 5. Where did I put number 5? I have all these little things. Oh, here it is. Slide number 5. Pale with pale lips. Did I do that? Let's see the tongue. Pale tongue. I think I put it in here. Yeah. So it's this one, pale with pale tongue, thin tongue with pale lips. So you just, the person really needs nutrition. They really need to be fortified is the word. Okay, so anemia, they're pale, they're sallow, they may even be a little dizzy, or they're definitely weak. They may have a little vertigo, or they might call it dizziness versus vertigo. They'll definitely have irregular menstruation. They may have some ringing in the ears. Their menstruation may be stopped, but there's definitely anemia here. They don't have healthy build blood, and so this will nourish them and build the blood. Beautiful, simple formula. Have it in your formulary, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Xiaoyawan, which is probably, I think it's our school's flagship formula. We use it for a lot of things in this school. This is a liver cheese stagnation formula, harmonizes the liver and the spleen. This actually is really good as a san, also, as a powder. So you can take it in the little tea pills, or if your digestion is not super great, you can take it as a powder. It works pretty well like that. Let's see, the tongue is usually kind of a palish kind of red, but there's definitely some redness there. Sometimes you'll see a little curled up on the tongue sometimes. Let me get my favorite picture. I found this great, oh, here it is. This is a really good Xiaoyawan picture. There it is. That's a really good Xiaoyawan picture. It's really great for women. The pulse will be tight, and it might be a little like wire. It'll feel like a wire. You'll definitely have that wiry. And sometimes you'll think to yourself, gosh, it's wiry, but it just doesn't have a lot of oomph to it. So you might say there's some weakness to it. It might be tight, might be weak, wiry. Sometimes it's a little choppy too. For this formula, you would want to corroborate the tongue and the pulse for this. Some of the story that goes behind it. So when you're doing symptoms or some of the history that you take, they'll complain of things, like headaches, and they'll definitely have a dry mouth. They definitely will have like bizarre appetite changes. They'll have a loss of appetite, and then they'll have this like crazy, like eat everything in the refrigerator, all at once. They may actually say, I feel full, like in my like midsection. So they describe that, and they're definitely moody. Oh my gosh, irritable, moody. If it's a woman, PMS, they'll have breast tenderness. They may have distension, they may even have fibrocystic breasts. Sometimes, and they'll definitely say, sometimes I'm really fatigued. Not all the time. It's not as if they're listless, but they'll definitely complain of, I get tired. And so, you'll see that with in the histories of people who are, would really need this formula. You may use this for more advanced conditions such as hepatitis. You may use it for Shaoyang patterns, patterns where you have alternating chills and fever, and the wind, the little bug, or the wind heat or wind cold invasion has started to move deeper into the body. So sometimes in Shaoyang, this actually works. This formula is really good. I work with a lot of people. I guess you would say I'm an epidemiologist herbalist. I work with a lot of infectious agents. Oddly enough, I don't know why, it started off with Lyme and it moved into all other kinds of really interesting infections. So, but I have found this formula to be very effective for, the infection starting to move into the body like that. So we call that the Shaoyang pattern, and it is miraculous for that. You can add bupleurum. You can add peony to this, and you can add dry fried atractylodes, which makes it kind of like a Jaiwei Xiaosan, which is really great to clear deficient and true heat and to tonify the spleen. So, you can kind of add on to this. It's a kind of a good sized formula, but you can add on to it and really move liver qi stagnation, as well as support spleen qi deficiency. And those two patterns, often you'll see them together in the United States, especially because our diets are so crappy, and we work so hard. We work and work and work and work and work, and our diets are not good and supportive. So you'll often see, spleen qi deficiency with that liver qi stagnation. And so you can kind of take Xiaowan and turn it into Jaiwei Xiaowan, adding, peony and dry fried atractylodes and Mudampi. So again, flagship formula for our school, really important formula. And did I show you the tongue? Pam, did I show the tongue on this? I did, right? Okay, good. All right. Does anyone have any questions about this? This is it's a really interesting formula. It does, I will say, it moves. It really, when I've taken this formula, and it really, really moves. You can feel things moving. Sometimes when things start moving, it gets a little interesting. So I always tell people, if we're altering the situation that you're in. So you have someone that comes in and they have this pattern, or two patterns or three patterns, and they have this health issue, and they come in and they describe this thing, and it's been a while, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. When you go to alter the situation, meaning you're going to move things, sometimes at first there's a little chaos before it starts to smooth out. I find that happens with this formula, where there's like a little bit of chaos at first because it goes and it moves you, and then it's like, whoa, it's like the person's like, wait a second, I came here to get better, and you hang in there. All right, I'm going to hold your hand on this one, and we're going to keep, because it's right, you match the tongue, match the pulse, the pattern fits, it's like perfect, right? And then they're like, I feel horrible. It's like, hang in there, you'll get through it, and it's really, really good. What's the dosage? Great question. Dosage can vary to 2 to 5 grams. It just depends on your patient. So it depends on their weight, depends on what they can digest. It depends on their tolerance to how much motion they want. This moves. This is the free and easy wonder. This will unlock them and move them if there's stagnation. So, and they're going to feel a little, whoa, like what's going on? They're used to being stagnant, so then they're going to move. So you can start with 1 gram, and then you can gram 3 times a day, or 1 gram 2 times a day. And so I often will give that much if this is the right formula and I've got the pattern right. Yeah, it's the trick. It really is. Yeah, powerful formula.
I have a question.
You do? Oh my God, she's gonna stump me in front of all of you, in front of my teachers and everyone.
I've given this formula to quite a few women. I mean, I live in New York City. Of course, I've given this formula to a bunch of women. And nearly every single one of them has had a lot of breakouts of like pimples and everything like that. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you can share about what's happening with that.
You know, it's funny. So when you move the liver, so you have liver and lungs and large intestine, that's related to acne. And depending upon, you know, how out of balance those are, will depend upon how bad the acne gets. This is my experience of it. So, and acne's tricky, man. It's tricky. Sometimes I am like banging my head against the wall because it's like, nope, that's not the right formula. Nope, that's not the right formula. But oftentimes I do see that you're going to move the liver and the large intestine isn't open, it backs up. And because Shia-1 moves and it moves out like this, it doesn't just move down. It kind of like moves, it kind of moves down, but it moves out too. And so because of that, if that large intestine isn't open and it's not clear, you have a little backup in this, you know, and that's part of it too. So you're going to keep your eyeball on it. You have to look at all the patterns. So lots of times when I see that happening, I think to myself, oh, I should have done the 5 purgations or the 5 purgation pill, where you should have just done the clearing first and then given the formula. So, and I remember, I can't remember this class. I think Michael taught this class. This was years ago when I was a student, and we were talking about the 5 purification pill. It had to have been Michael because it was this long story that went with it. I have it in my notes somewhere. But it really sunk in that sometimes what happens is we go to give a formula that moves and we get this like crazy experience from it. We didn't clear the roots. We didn't clear the orifices. We didn't clear the exit routes. We didn't open the skin. We didn't open the large intestine, you know, so my experience is when I start to see that happen, I stop and I go, oh, let's go back. Let's clean house. Let's open everything up and then let's move. So, and I found that stops the breakouts. In fact, this just happened. I have a woman that I'm working with. She lives in New Jersey. She's a nutritionist. She's a very bright woman, longstanding client of mine. And I hadn't seen her in about a year, and we did a face thing. She said, Nance, I took a bunch of herbs and they were old herbs. They were in the closet. You gave me them. And one of them was Shia-1. And she said, look at my face. And it was just like, in her skin, her whole life had been just like a porcelain doll. I mean, she had the most beautiful skin. I was like this bug-eyed, like, okay, let's go. We gotta get the purification going. You know, she had gained weight. She's perimenopausal. And she had not been taking care of herself, and she hadn't been, you know, she had not been regular. Her bowels hadn't been regular. So backing up, she, you know, we kind of cleaned house a little bit, restored her a little bit, and then, you know, went on from that. Michael says, thinks Chinese bupleurum consumes the yin, and he doesn't use much bupleurum. Japanese only use 1/3 of the TCM formulas. They use a lot of bupleurum formulas. So for a breakout, should you use the Jiawei version, right? Yeah, I would, Michael, I agree with you. I would definitely add some other supportive herbs in there, and or just back up and do the 5 purifications first and then go back to it and see how you do. And so I did that with her and it was beautiful. So you could go either route for sure. But again, it's case by case, definitely case by case. But I always, whenever I see acne, I think of the, you know, I think large intestine, liver, you know, large intestine and lungs. So the 3 organs that have the biggest effect on the skin. So great
Thank
question.
you.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Sandra wants to know how baking licorice changes the effect of the herb.
Oh, that's a really great question. So licorice has it has a pretty dampening quality to it when it's in its raw form, and when you bake it, it's less damp. It really is. And Chinese licorice is really different than American licorice. American licorice is, even without baking it, it's less damp, and it has slightly different qualities to it. Chinese licorice doesn't have as much of an effect on blood pressure, but when you bake it, it has literally almost no effect on blood pressure. So that's why in Western herbalism, we'll we'll do DGL licorice, deglycerized licorice, which is when we take this glyceric acid out of the licorice to make it safer for people who have blood pressure issues. But Chinese licorice is not as much of a, and it's truly my experience too. I've used both kinds, and I feel really, clear that when I use Chinese licorice and when I bake it, it's very safe for people who are older, and it makes it warmer. Yeah, anytime you add heat, it makes it a little warmer. Great, kidney chi tonic for sure. Yeah, really beautiful. Support of the kidneys, support of the chi. I love licorice. Oh my God, I love it. But of course, I need all that. So it's so great. Good question. Okay, moving on. We're going to go to minor bupleurum combination. How are we doing with time, Pam? Pretty good? Pretty good, huh? We're doing major or minor? Now we're doing major bupleurum, right? Major bupleurum.
You're doing fine with time, Nancy.
Oh, good.
It's 2:44. Oh, 5:44 your time.
Oh, we have plenty of formulas.
Good.
Plenty. Okay. Slide number 7. So here is this. Okay, this is good. So you want to, with major bupleurum, Dachai Hutang, you want to see a yellow coat. So so there's a yellow coat. That looks pretty yellow, huh? Yeah. And I like this tongue for this formula too, because you see all the teeth marks too, right? And you see a little curled sides right here. So it's really good. Well, pulse would be wiry and tight, and it'll be forceful, right? So this is for Shaoyang and Yangming parrots. So this is like wind heat has invaded the body and it's burrowing into the body. So this will purge internal heat. So it's a laxative, but it can really move that kind of invasion out very, very effectively. So your history, or the story that would show up, corroborated with the yellow coat, maybe a red tongue underneath with a yellow coat, wiry and tight and forceful pulse. The person would be having fever and chills with more fever. They may have constipation and or diarrhea or going back and forth, right? They'll definitely have like a weird bitter taste in their mouth. Excuse me. They may have nausea and or vomiting. They'll definitely have this like blocked feeling in their abdomen, in their middle jowl, and they'll have pain. They'll have spasms in the abdomen. Sometimes this is used for pancreatitis or inflammation of the liver and or pancreas. It's also a good formula for gallbladder disease or disorder like cholecystitis or gallstones. Although I have to say, I really like Li Dampian for gallstones, but you can use either or. They're really good. I have both, and if I think somebody is having a gallbladder attack, and they show up. It's amazing how many show up in my office. People's gallbladders, like what? We're just not eating right. That has to be that has to be the issue. I have so many of these. I have like literally bottles and bottles of Dachai Hutang and Li Dampian, and I use both for gallbladder and you know, that kind of, and you have, we call it wraparound pain, where it wraps around. It might start here under the rib cage and wrap around the back, or you might have pain that goes up right here, right? So you'll see that. That's all part of it. So there are the herbs. I'm not reading the herbs because I'm thinking you're all reading them, right? Or do you want me to read the herbs? So there's rhubarb in this formula. So of course it's going to be a little bit more moving. It's going to be wildly moving for some, but it's really good because you want to get that invasion out of the body. Great also for stubborn calculi, if you will. And I showed you the tongue already, right? Okay, so, and it doesn't get actually any more complicated with that. What I will say is that make sure they definitely have heat, and they definitely have a yellow coat on the tongue. And you know, make sure that they know that this is for purgation. Can you say the other two formulas for gallbladder stones again? Oh, the other one that I use is called Li Dan Pian, or you can use Michael's formula. It's called Stone Free. I love that formula, although I think now it has a lot more turmeric in it than it used to, but Stone Free is spectacular for stones. One of the things that Michael did with that formula that I love is that, you know, he added marshmallow root, and he added lemon balm. And so what it does, it's so good, because what it does is it makes things a little bit more slippery, but lemon balm relaxes smooth muscles. So, and you know, gallstones get stuck in the liver, in the duct itself. So you want to relax the ducts a little bit so the stones can move. So and so that's actually a really good mechanism of action. Like if you wanted to take Da Chai Hu Tang and you wanted to add a smooth muscle relaxer such as lemon balm or black cohosh or something really spectacular like that, you could really help people get out of pain pretty quickly. And that includes, like with Stone Free is great for kidney stones too, and so is Li Dan Pian works. It shows a little gallbladder on it, but it works also for kidney stones, so, or calculi in the body that's building up inside of tubes, right? And we have a lot of those in our body, right? We have tubes in a lot of places. So this is a great, really great. Okay. Oh, these are such great formulas. You know, sometimes I get fancy with my formulas, but these are like these basic formulas that are just like, yeah, like they are really a huge part of my, and it's funny to talk about them this way because they're such a part of my life now. I used to overthink it, and I'm like, oh my God, should I have this formula, this formula? So I had like hundreds of formulas. Finally, I just said, no, let's just pare it down to the, you know, exactly what you need. I mean, I have single herbs all over the place, and you can bump these up or change them a little bit, but these really are the bomb. They really are. They're so good. Okay, so Zhai Chai Hu Tang or Xiao Chai Hu Tang, this is minor bupleurum formula. This formula is in my formula. I have a gallon of it. I literally have a gallon of it. This is a really, really important formula because it harmonizes the yin and the yang. And I see a lot of people with long-term chronic, you know, like issues. You know, they've been sick for a long time, and this is a really good formula. So it's a big one for me. These are patterns that started as an acute external presentation, and they've penetrated into the lingering, the middle stage, and they're just stuck in there. Okay, so now you know why, since I do a lot of Lyme. I also see like MS and, you know, ALS and, you know, a lot of really tough stuff, but stuff that gets stuck in the body, and it's like, it's not going deeper, but it's not coming out. It's just in there. So this is one of those formulas that, and this is really miraculous for that. Okay, the tongue will have a thin white coat. So let me see my page number 8. I have notes everywhere. See this? This is so me, right, Pammy? Oh, God bless you. I can see you sneezing. Yeah, my little, okay. Oh, this is such a good, this is a thin white coat. Thin white coat, you know, and also like what you see that I see here too, that's also really good for this formula is how the tongue kind of comes to a point, but you see how it's like a little off? There's definitely like a tiny little bit of a deviation going on in that tongue. So, and I see that a lot. So this is just a beautiful formula. And I've done a lot with this formula. I've changed things, you know, kind of added things, you know, lessened some herbs, added some herbs, decreased some, you know, increased others. And, but from, you know, from my perspective, it's one of those that's great for things that get stuck in the body and won't come out. So, so some of the histories that go with this or stories that go with this, you know, people will say they'll have alternating fever and chills if it's newer, but sometimes what happens is they'll get a little bit of that. They'll get chills out of nowhere. Like they'll say, gosh, I get chilled, you know, and I don't know why I'm getting chilled. I'm not sick, you know, I'm tired and I get chilled. So they'll say that. They definitely have fatigue. And sometimes they'll have this weird nausea. They'll say like, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden my stomach gets a little queasy. They'll definitely say, you know, I have a little bitterness in my mouth. They'll say they feel tight around, again, that flank, that right flank kind of gallbladder, liver thing, that the organ is just kind of saying, hey, something's not right here. They'll feel full in the midsection with this too. Sometimes they'll be fine, and then all of a sudden they'll get bronchitis, right? And then they'll be fine, and then they'll get colds, you know, and then they'll be fine, and they'll kind of have this like malaise, and it's like this general thing where they'll be fine, and then all of a sudden they're sick, and they're like, I don't know what made me sick. Why am I sick? I don't understand that. I don't think I caught anything, you know. So it's this kind of amorphic experience of why am I sick right now? You know, so hepatitis, jaundice, long-term infections. My brother's used this with cases of HIV/AIDS. So he treats HIV/AIDS and because that's his community. So, but he has used this beautifully with that. I've used it with Lyme, you know, long-term chronic Lyme. Lingering colds, it's like, I can't get rid of this darn thing. You know, it's stuck. Beautiful formula. Ginseng, licorice, jujube, datsao, love jujube. I just love jujube. Scularia, Penelia, and Bupleurum. Harmonizes the liver and spleen. Yeah. Valerie said, thank you for sharing about the overthinking. You mean like, oh my God, I gotta buy all these formulas. Oh my gosh, stop yourself. Start with these. They're phenomenal. They do the trick. Don't go crazy. Yeah. Oh, I totally get it. I remember. Oh my God. I mean, I still have a lot of herbs, but I definitely have my favorites, and I sometimes I'll buy gallons of those, you know, or, you know, I'll have like 3 bottles of it or something. So yeah, great. All right. We're good with minor bupleurum.
Panda has a question. She wants to know if chronic skin issues or eruptions may also be presenting in the client. I'm assuming with this formula because that's when this question appeared.
Yeah, sometimes I actually do see, I might see hives, or I might see, you know, kind of like petechiae, like little raised red bumps that'll come and go a little bit. Sometimes you'll have, sometimes what I'll see with this too, it's not always, but occasionally what will happen is the thing gets inside, right? And their body's trying to push it up, it doesn't quite happen. So you'll have these like weird white bumps all over the extremities. It's really interesting. And that I've seen that pattern over and over again. And it's not that I give them this formula because of that, but it's a kind of a part of that lingering thing. And the body's really trying to push it out, you know, but it's not going anywhere. It's just stuck in the sinews, right? Yeah. Yeah. That I absolutely see. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if Michael has something to say about that too, because, or Leslie, you know, you can unmute or type in the chat, you know, something to say about that, but I definitely have seen that. Okay, let's move on to number.
Nancy, to say about what? Which thing?
Oh, the question was, do you see sometimes with an invasion that gets stuck in this level in the sinews, you know, that it's just stuck in there? Do you see sometimes, like you'll see like, yeah, like skin eruptions with that, or like rashes on the skin? And I have, so I just wanted to check in if you had too.
I have, and sometimes people come in and they say, oh, I've got this pain, or I've got this rash, or I've got this whatever. And I ask them, when did they first experience it? And they invariably say, oh, it was after a really bad flu I had, and then afterwards this appeared, or this, you know, I've had this ever since then. And you know that it's trapped half internally, half externally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you, Leslie.
Welcome.
Okay, ginseng, ginseng and, is this right? Wait a second. Yeah, ginseng and long gone. Guipi Tong. Pammy and I were talking about Guipi Tong. Was it yesterday, Pammy? Yeah, we're talking about Guipi Tong.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Or no, it was the day before. No, it was the day before. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Thursday. We're herb nerds, right? Let's talk about Guipi Tong today. Oh my God, something's wrong with us. Nine. I don't know. Love our herbs, don't we? All right, on the tongue. So this is heart and spleen qi deficiency, and this is a premier qi tonic. It is, again, this is another, I would say, flagship herb in our school. We talk about Guipi Tong a lot. So the tongue would be pale and white, and there'll be a thin white coat, and you will have like a little bit of a swelling in the tongue. Like the tongue might be a little, it's not flat and thin, it kind of looks a little, you know, it doesn't have to be huge, but it definitely, there's some swelling there. So here's a good picture of, see how there's a little bit of swelling, and there's a white coat, and it's definitely pale, right? That's a pale tongue. It's almost blue under there, but close enough for this. And the pulse will be thready and weak. So there's weakness here, and you see that, and there's coldness here. So this is to tonify and nourish. What book is this one? Okay, so this book is, that's another thing, Pammy and I, we have to stop with the books, Pam. We have like libraries of them. Okay, so I love this book too, because I can carry it with me if I'm away. And it's called The Pocket Atlas of Tongue Diagnosis. And it's good too, but really my favorites, my favorite is this. It's really good. Yeah. They're both good, you know, and sometimes you can check, and I have other tongue diagnosis, but these had tongues that kind of match these patterns a little bit better. So I wanted to share that with everyone. So yeah, so there's that tongue, and then the pulse would be thready and weak, and you would feel that. You're welcome, Laura. Renshen ginseng, astragalus, huangqi, dangui, longanberries, baitsu, white atractylodes, muzhang, sasaria, poria. I have a ton of poria in my office. Gosh, we just need to move that water, right? Wantur, polygala, ziziphus, swanzao ren, and then fresh ginger, which is shenjiang, and then jujube, datsao. So really big formula actually, but beautiful. And it's amazing that so many herbs come together and create this incredible nourishing tonic. And so another one, we were talking about this, and I think, this has a little bit of an upward motion kind of thing, kind of lift you up. So, to kind of lift the whole being up. So it is a really incredible tonic. So forgetfulness, palpitations, fatigue, a really disturbed sleep, maybe with nightmares. The person is not going to be hungry, which is really interesting. You would think that someone who has a lot of fatigue would have a big appetite. That's not necessarily true. So in the case of Guipi Tang, and if someone says, I'm really, really tired and I can't stop eating, Guipi Tang probably is not the right formula for them. And I've made that mistake, by the way, where I thought, oh, it's Guipi Tang, and I forgot to ask them about their appetite, and the formula didn't work right. It was kind of messy, and they got like tarry kind of stools, and it was like they got a migraine from it. I thought, what did I do wrong? And I missed asking them about their appetite. So with Guipi Tang, there's not a lot of appetite. So, and it's really true. So a lot of people talk about this whole concept of kidney, we call it like chronic fatigue with adrenal insufficiency. So here's the thing to keep in mind. If someone says that I have adrenal fatigue, if they're not thin with a tiny appetite, that's not what's going on. So if they've gained weight and put on weight and they look puffy, but they have huge fatigue, and they have some of these other things like disturbed insomnia, with palpitations and some other things, it's still not quite the right formula for them. So there has to be like a weight loss, or they're very thin, they don't have a big appetite, they are pale. They may even have like uterine bleeding, so it's like breakthrough bleeding. Their body they're not holding, right? They're not holding, their body's not holding itself upright, and so the blood's just going out, right? They bruise easy, they'll have varicose veins, but they may not even have varicosities, but they'll have the little spider veins, and they'll have them like definitely on their legs. Maybe they'll have them on their labia, maybe they'll have them on their abdomen, maybe they'll have them on their face, So you normally see it in the lower body, but sometimes you'll see it kind of in other places too. They're nervous, they're weak, they bleed a lot, they may have diabetes, but they'll have diabetes where they lose a lot of weight, right? So it's like that kind of thing, not diabetes where they blow up and get really big. So they may be like OCD and, just trying to like figure things out, and they're trying to control things because they're so exhausted, and they can't keep their mind straight. Their mind wanders all over the place because they just, they don't have enough. They don't have enough, So really important formula, great formula. Would you use this with a patient who also has blood stagnation? I don't normally use this formula where there's blood stagnation. I'll use it with blood deficiency. This is a really deficient type of formula. Sometimes you do get blood stagnation with blood deficiency, but it's actually more like blood stasis. So if you have blood deficiency, you almost don't even see the stagnation as much. I don't feel. Most of the time with this is just a deficiency on top of deficiency kind of formula. And they need to be nourished. Whereas stagnation, they're making something, because you can't have stagnation without having something there. These people don't even have enough there to actually stagnate, generally speaking. So I won't see that together normally, or I haven't. But I can ask Leslie. Leslie, have you seen those two patterns together? She might answer, she may not, she may be resting.
I wish I were resting.
I'm sorry.
But I'm loving listening to your webinar.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm answering a couple questions. Jill and I are taking care of stuff too. So
Good.
what was your question? I forgot it.
The question was, would you use this patient who also has blood stagnation? I said I don't normally see this kind of deficiency with blood stagnation because I'm really not making enough blood to actually stagnate, although it could happen. But I just wanted to check to see if you've seen blood stagnation with this kind of spleen chi deficiency and heart and spleen chi, heart and spleen chi deficiency, basically.
No, I've never seen blood stasis with this, but what you might get is bleeding. And that's not unusual. And this is really good for bleeding from chi deficiency.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
Agreed. We're all on the same page.
All on the same page. Yeah.
Okay, I'll mute again.
Great question, though. Great question, because I think for me, the reason why I love that question is because, the whole consideration of blood, right? Like blood being this fluid, and how do we build blood, and then what happens to the blood, right? And if you're not if you don't have enough to build blood, right, it can't stagnate, so you kind of, when you think about, but it's such a great question, because it's like, okay, let's just talk ourselves through this. It's a really good theory question. So good, Emily, very good. Yeah. Okie dokie. Oh, ginseng and ziziphus, Tiawan Buzendan. And this is Susan Kramer's favorite formula. And how do I know? Because she and I are very close. And we talk about this formula all the time. So Tiawan Buzendan, ginseng and ziziphus combination, gigantic formula, right? Unprepared Romania, Shengdi, not Shudi, Tia Mendong, asparagus fruit, and Ophiophagon, which I love my Mendong so much. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Love it. Just thinking about it makes my mouth water. Bicey Ren, biota seed, great seeds. So there's some seeds in here. Ziziphus seed, Swanzao Ren, salvia root, Dan Shen. What an extraordinary herb Dan Shen is. Dangui, Poria Fuling, Scrophularia, Schizandra wuetze, which is, the fruit, the 5 tastes, Polygala, and Platycodon and Cinnabar, Zusha. So it clears evil heat, and clears deficiency heat. So, and also sedates a little bit, nourishes the yin, the blood, and the vital essence of the heart and kidney. So spectacular, huh? Wow. Sometimes I think to myself, doctors should train in TCM, because if they ever knew this, they would think, like, this is like all of our patients that we can't figure out what's wrong with them. It's all right here. Why can't we get these people better? We have it right here. It's true. Okay, so it's also known as the Emperor of Heaven's Tonic, pill for the mind. Yin and blood deficiency, fire, right? And so there's false heat and fire. So it really is a fire thing, but even if it's just false heat or it's heat, you can still use this formula if it's appropriate, and you corroborate the tongue and the pulse. So the tongue is reddish body with little to no fur, and definitely tip of the tongue is very red. Sometimes it's almost like crimson, scarlet, like woo, bright red, like wow, here it goes. Okay, so let me find that tongue for you. I had it all picked out. Where did I put it?
Oh, you're looking. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, this is a question for everybody. Jill wants to know if you want to keep having this option of showing your webcam and the muting and muting. If you do not, we'll just stay with the old links you've already received. But if you do, we need to send you all new links. So just type in your question box, yes or no. That would be a great poll, Pam.
Michael, I love you. Michael wrote, You and Susan K, two empresses deciding what formula to give. The stressed emperor threatened with having a heart attack. Oh my God. Oh God, this is so great. I lost my slide. Where did, oh, here it is. Now I have it.
So everybody needs to give an answer in their questions box.
Yeah.
Please. Pretty please.
So I chose this tongue, and you know sometimes it's can be a little bit pointier too. So reddish body, no fur. The tip of the tongue is super red. Leslie's voice was cutting out, so we didn't hear the question very well. Leslie, can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, hang on. Jill's calling me at the same time. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the question is, do you want to keep this option available where you can show your webcams as you were doing earlier? Or does it not make a difference? It matters because you have links right now for not showing your webcams. And if you want to see them, we have to send you new links to use. Some of you today did not use the new link for today. You used the old one, and that's why you can't show your webcam. Ta-da! So
Erica
please type.
asked, will we need it later? That's what she asked.
I depends on a teacher preference. I know Susan would love to see you all. So, all right, I'm going to answer for you. I don't want to interrupt your class.
Okay, no, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm reading what Emily and Valerie said. I love seeing your faces, but I can teach it without. I mean, I can see Pammy and I can hear Leslie. This our lovely little family, so I'm all happy.
Doesn't
And
matter. Okay, thank you.
I love seeing everyone's faces. I really do. It's wonderful. So if you're willing to stay, you know, on the webcam, great. But if you're feeling like I want to shut this off and I just want to lie down and take class, or I need to like blow my nose, or you know, I need to grab something to eat, and we're gonna actually take a break too, aren't we, Pammy? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to finish up this formula and then we'll break
I do.
for a little
And
bit?
then we'll take a break. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it's reddish body, no fur. So it's just stripped. Lots of times it's dry, but sometimes they'll have a little moisture in the tongue. The tip of the tongue is always red. Sometimes it's a little pointed. The pulse is thin and rapid. And the story of the history that goes with it is that they have palpitations, they have insomnia, they have they're forgetful, right? They're incredibly tired. They may or may not have nocturnal issues. So things that'll wake them up in the night, like they're awake and then they have to go to the bathroom a lot. They're definitely nervous. They definitely feel their heart. They feel like something's not right with their heart. They'll have palpitations, or they may be told that they have tachycardia, or they have, something not right with the rhythm of their heart. They may have hypertension, so they may have some high blood pressure, or their blood pressure might go up and down. So they have sometimes the blood pressure will drop really low, and then sometimes it'll spike really high. They may have hyperthyroidism, so they may be like losing their hair, and you may actually even see that their throat's getting thicker. That the thyroid is actually getting larger. They may be menopausal, and they have this syndrome of menopause. So they'll have day sweats and night sweats, and anxiety when they have sweating, and disturbed night sleep, nighttime disturbances, very mentally active, too active. They'll have difficulty concentrating. They may even say to you, I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to be able to think straight. My mind used to be strong, and now I cannot finish the sentence. I can't keep my mind together. They're definitely agitated. They're definitely irritable. And their mouth is dry, right? So there's definitely heat. There's definitely heat. This formula has a contraindication. It's contraindicated for spleen and stomach weakness, especially if people like bloat or have loose stools or and retain fluid and edema. So you definitely need to make sure you have evil heat here, and that there's yin blood and yin deficiency. Definitely.
Nancy, there's a question about the cinnabar at the bottom of the formula. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, as far as I know, it's not used anymore, correct?
Yeah, I don't use it. If I, there's so much controversy around some of these minerals and some of our more toxic herbs. Some of them, like you and I have talked about this, the bugs, right? We love the bugs. We use all the bugs, like I don't have a problem with them at all. But, even with aconite, I'm careful, and I don't use cinnabar. We can't find clean sources of cinnabar, and that's part of the problem, right? Even like in Ayurveda, like I am, oh, it just went right out of my head. I know it's getting late because the brain is starting to shut down. There's a tonic that I call it rock poop or rock. What is that Ayurvedic? You know what I'm talking about, Pam?
Shilajit.
Shilajit, yeah. So it's very hard to find clean sources of shilajit. Yeah. So like with cinnabar, same thing. I'm like, I don't know. I don't use it. I just don't. And the formula works fine without it. I think the formula works fine without it. So, Erica asked, will there be mapping on the tongue? There might be. Yeah, because the fluids are starting to dry up. So you definitely may see some cracks on the tongue. Definitely. Very good question, Erica. Paying attention. Excellent. Okay, we're going to take a 15-20 minute break, right? Go get some food, get some tea, go use the restroom, stretch, and we'll be back and we'll finish. We have, we did good. We're a little less than halfway through, but we can zip through the rest of it pretty much. Okay. Valerie says, we love seeing you. Would be great for EW chats. I'd love to come back for chat, at least one. We'll talk about it. It's up to Leslie and the school, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, everybody.
Okay. All right, have a little break. Okay.
Yeah, see you in 15.
See you in 15.
Just real quick for everybody who has the ability to get their webcams going, if you all wanted to activate your webcams, I think we can fit, what, 4 or 5 more people on. You're more than welcome to chat amongst yourselves. And for those who can't, I can unmute you if you want. If you don't respond pretty quickly, I probably won't be able to take care of that because I need to use the bathroom too. All right. Okay, off I go for my break. Hi, Laurel. I think you can unmute yourself, maybe. Oh, you're not connected to audio. Oh, yeah, if you have headphones, maybe plug them in or something. Yeah, okay. All right. Off I go for my break. So Nancy, I muted you. I can't hear you yet. There we go.
Whoosh.
I like speed ate a piece of toast.
Yeah,
I did.
I speed played with my dogs.
Yeah, I have Marty's playing with a homeopathy tube, you know, with all the pellets. She loves that sound. Yep. Oh man.
Okay, everyone, we're all back.
Is everybody back?
Yeah. I know. And so they were saying, did you see that? They said we should have a formula chat group. And I'm like, that's great. And hello, Herb family. Big hugs to you all.
Yeah.
Missing all of you in the redwoods. Oh gosh, so am I.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a caged animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
It's a beautiful formula.
Oh, let me get my.
Precious. Okay. Fasen Tong.
All right.
So this is a kind of a combination formula of the Dangui 4 and the 4 major herbs. And this is another really good formula for deficiency conditions. You're not going to see fire in this one like you did in the last. So you'll see, you'll see a thin white coat. The tongue will be pale, and it could look. I think I showed you a thin white coat before. Like that. What else can I say about the thin white coat? I had something in my head. This is like more of a women's formula. You can use it with men, but it's more of a women's formula. 8 Precious, right? And it's like bleeding, like a lot of bleeding, especially after delivery. So this formula is like traditionally used that way, but you can use it for other kinds of bleeding issues, like bloody noses. Who would have thunk it? Oy. So, and the pulse will be thready, it'll be weak. Or the other thing that can happen is like you'll think that the pulse is inflated, like big, but then when you go to press on it, it's like nothing's underneath it, right? It's like oh, you thought it was big, you thought it was a big pulse, and then it just disappears, right? So it's kind of a soft pulse that is overinflated. There's like nothing underneath it. There's no root to it. So again, like you want to corroborate the tongue and the pulse, make sure those are in the right ballpark for this formula. And the history with this, would be, again, fatigue. So these are all really great fatigue formulas that we've just done. But you want to get the right pattern of fatigue. So you don't want to just say all fatigue formulas, just give them 8 Precious, or all fatigue formulas, just give them a Tianwang Buzendang. You don't want to do that. You really want to discriminate your pattern. So that's a big deal with these fatigue formulas. So this tonifies the qi and the blood. And someone will say, like, I'm short of breath. I can't go up the stairs. This is good. I can't go up the stairs without breathing really heavily. They might have palpitations. They'll definitely feel anxious, but it's like this mild anxiety. It's not like crazy anxiety. Like it's just this like mild condition of anxiety. They may have been told that they're anemic. They'll be tired. So the difference between being tired and fatigued. So this is like kind of a real thing. So everybody gets tired, right? Like, you don't sleep enough at night, you overwork, you feel tired, right? Fatigue is a kind of a different classification of tiredness, right? You may with fatigue you may fall asleep while you're driving. With fatigue, you feel listless. Like you literally can't. You think to yourself, "I got to get up now," and you don't do anything, and you're like, "Okay, 5 minutes have gone by. I've got to get up. Can't." Right? Or you may also with fatigue, it'll be like it could be very difficult getting out of bed, or you could get out of bed, but literally you get out of the shower and you think, oh my God, how am I going to get dressed? So that's the difference between being tired. I feel tired, gosh, I worked really hard today, or I didn't get a good night's sleep, versus fatigue. So I hopefully that's helpful. So this is like fatigue, right? They'll be pale. Have a pallor to them. They might even almost have a gray pallor to them because they may have lost blood. So this has a lot to do with building up the blood. So tonifying the chi in the blood. And sometimes they'll even say, I'm not fatigued, I'm exhausted, right? This is a really good formula for postpartum recovery, and for people who are chronically deficient. They're just deficient fluid, deficient blood, deficient chi. They keep ending up in this place where they're deficient. Right? They don't have enough nutrition. They don't sleep and have good nutrition. They may have they may have something that's really unplugging them. It could just be aging, but generally it's, overwork and other stuff, and not building the blood. I sometimes, sometimes I see vegans. Hi, is that Saul? No, that's not. Oh, there she is. She's a beautiful princess.
Sorry.
We love our pets. Where was I in my head? Yeah. Oh, this one. So women with heavy menstrual flow, you could, especially if it's like really bad. It's almost they're bleeding. They're bleeding profusely. They're going through several large tampons. They'll up tampon an hour. They're just bleeding. Really, problematically. So, and then after the birth of a child. Is it okay with nursing? So can somebody answer that question? Because pregnancy and post-pregnancy, that's not a strength of mine. I'm an epidemiologist. Somebody here who can answer that question, is this okay while nursing? I'm looking at Chuanzhang and I'm looking at Ren Shen, and I'm kind of looking at Baitu, and I'm kind of thinking not with nursing. So, but mostly Chuanzhang. I wouldn't use Chuanzhang while nursing. Do you feel that way, Pammy? I do not know the answer to that ultimately, but I would. Yeah, Pam's saying, she's shaking her head. Yeah, don't use it during nursing.
I wouldn't. I have worked with someone recently who had a lot of postpartum exhaustion, to the point where she could barely even talk. She was so exhausted. And I ended up giving her a formula from Golden Flower or Golden Lotus. I'll look up what's in it, now, and I'll put it in the chat box for everybody. It was just called General Tonic Formula, and I think it was just, astragalus and really, really mild tonic herbs, and she did pretty well on it. And then I ended up making custom blends for her after that were all like 100% safe for breastfeeding. So that's my not short answer.
It does, it does say in the books postpartum, like in Bensky, it does say postpartum recovery, but I think it's like kind of a quick, like before they start breastfeeding kind of recovery thing. But again,
I'll chime in for a second.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. This is not one of my big clinical strengths.
Oh, you two are doing great. So, I'm not sure why that's online, but anyway, yeah, it depends on the woman again. So some women are so deficient, they need their blood replenished. And the ideal thing is, and what women would do in the past, is they would eat their placenta, which was loaded with blood and hormones and, you know, would really quickly replenish the body. But in lieu of that, you could take this formula. Now, I agree, I wouldn't do ginseng, I'd do Codonopsis instead. If the woman is still bleeding a lot, then Dong Quai can sometimes extend that bleeding. So you could, you know, wait until she stops bleeding and use this. This is typically used after any kind of surgery for recovery. But postpartum, if a woman is extremely deficient, yeah, and you know, or even just doing gelatin too, and molasses can replenish the blood quickly. So, in my
Thank
side,
you.
yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, that's all. I'm sure the students are going, yay! Excellent. Yep.
It's just
I
so
have
great to hang out. All right.
Okay, great. So that's 8 precious, Bazentang. And if you see a lot of women, or especially women who are, you know, if your practice is a lot of women who are of, you know, who are getting pregnant or have a lot of women's issues, you know, this is a really important formula to have. It's one of those women's formulas, I would say. No, it's not that I don't have women in my practice, it's just that they're coming to me for a lot of other things other than pregnancy and that kind of thing. So, but it's great. Good. I have it here. I actually took it. Yeah, it was Women's Precious. You know, that I took one of the formulas I took after I nearly bled to death on my nose. Okay, so great. Next formula. Okay. Ginseng and astragalus. Bujang Yichi Tang. This is a tang. Oh, this is really a tang. Take it as a tang. Don't take it as a san. And it's definitely taste it and eat this. This is a really interesting, really great formula. Of course, this is a supreme tonic formula. It's very, it's for pronounced Qi deficiency with listlessness. And, you know, with this too, it's like the legs feel heavy, you know, the lower abdomen feels heavy. They're just, you know, they're sagging, right? They're just absolutely, their whole being is just sagging. And the tongue will be pale, scalloped. There'll be scallops on the edge. There'll be thick white coat. The tongue might be larger. Let me get a picture of that for you. Number 12, number 12, slide 12. Oh yeah, oh, I've got some good ones there. But this one's like perfect. See that? The scallops, the large, and even the, yeah, it's just like really collapsing, cold, collapsing. The pulse, be thin, weak, or weak or inflated, just like we talked about, where you press on it and you think it's there, and then it just kind of deflates a little bit. They actually will have this like white but shiny complexion, and if you're paying attention, you'll notice it. You'll think, wow, they almost like the face of the moon, you know, a shiny white lunar complexion. So the history that goes with this, of course, this tonifies the qi of the spleen and the stomach, so it's really sort of upper. So we're going to lift up again, raises the yang, tonifies the blood. So the story that kind of goes with it is chronic fatigue and weakness. They may have tidal fever in the afternoon. They may have like inflammation. So one of the things is, you know, if someone overworks out and they're just like all their tendons hurt, or they sprain over here 1 week and 3 weeks later they have a strain over there in some other part of their body, or they're just overworked out, incredible physical exertion, incredible amounts of physical stress. And so, sometimes with a lot of people who overwork out, they get these subacute fevers. They're like not quite a fever, but they just will feel like fever-ish around. So that I've seen, and that's very real. And Bujang Ichitang is great for that. They may get shortness of breath. If they're an athlete, they may not have shortness of breath, but they may say like they can't get a really great breath. They may say like, you know, I don't understand. You know, I worked out earlier today, and now when I'm going up the stairs, I'm like gasping for breath. So they're exhausted. You know, they just they've spent it all, right? They may actually, they can't hold water in the body. So what happens is they just spontaneous start to perspire, just sitting there. There's fluid leaves the body. They'll this is really true with this formula. They'll be a little like slow in their speech. You'll be like, can you get to the point, please? So sometimes when I'm working with some, this is so true. It's like sometimes it'll be like my experience with the person, which is part of the sign, right? So I'll be sitting there and I'll be thinking, oh my God, can you please get to the point, or can you please finish the sentence before I stab my eye out? They're really struggling. Okay, they've exhausted themselves, and they've exhausted even the sea of marrow. So basically that's why it's affecting the brain. And so this is really, really good for that. Prolapse, fevers. I use this a lot too, because I see a lot of cancer patients who actually have two cancer patients. I have a colon cancer patient and a breast cancer patient right now that I'm working with, and I have her on Bujang Ichitang. She's doing amazing, you know. So people who are undergoing chemotherapy, hepatitis, HIV, organ prolapse, as you know, even after, you know, birth, if they prolapse with birth. Multiple sclerosis. I actually have an MS man. He's doing amazing. He's had MS for a really long time. Great. I have him on Bujang Ichitang. It's not the only formula, but I have him on. He fits the pattern beautifully. You know, that vacillating blood pressure, low to high blood pressure. They'll be really, really low, and all of a sudden there's spike of high blood pressure for some unknown reason, right? Long-term viral conditions. I use this also with people who have Lyme disease, who have had it for chronic long time, period of time. Designed for conditions where the young of the middle and upper warmer start to collapse downward. So you'll see like sagging breasts, sagging belly, you know, the abdomen starts to sag underneath. And when you're looking at the person and they're just sagging like that, you want to have this in your mind. You want, of course, corroborate the tongue and the pulse and the rest of the story. But if you see that sagging in the body, just have that in the back of your mind for this. It's really, really amazing. Weakened immune system. I had a woman who came in to see me. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and she had a non-specific leukopenia, which is her white blood. She wasn't making white blood cells, and she was an acupuncturist. And she came to see me, you know, and we kind of worked on it together. But I said, look, she had this big thing. She hates this formula. She's like, I hate this formula. Everyone uses this formula. It's like blah. It's not going to help me. I said, come on, you fit the pattern. Let's just take the formula. And believe it or not, she started making white blood cells again. So that was really interesting. That, I don't know. I mean, that's one case, but it really taught me something too. It's like, you know, things start to sag and kind of really kind of just the bottom falls out, right? So her immune system, part of the way her immune system was functioning just was like it sagged, you know, it just like blah, it just like wasn't working. So there, and Bujang Ichitang. So that was kind of cool. So you don't want to use it with people who have a lot of phlegm and a lot of dampness. Okay, that's a contraindication for this formula. As you can see, you know, white atractylodes, you have licorice, you have dangui, you have black koha, shengma, you know, astragalus, you know, it's kind of like moistening and all that. So if they have a lot of phlegm and a lot of dampness, it would not be appropriate. Great formula. Right, Michael says it doesn't only tonify the chi, it lifts the chi, right? And so raises the chi. So yeah, it's very true. Really great formula. Okie dokie. Let's move on to the next one. So, Michael also said to, I think you can read the text, but I think it's good to just say it. Interesting that this formula is also considered good for detoxification, tonification plus detoxifying. And it's the Li Dong Yuan flagship formula, tonic, fatigue, inflammation. And he said he completely agrees. Yeah, good. Whew. Sweating bullets over here, folks. Both my teachers on my, that's not right. It's Saturday evening.
No pressure, Nancy. No pressure.
I know.
You're doing great.
You're gonna need Bujang Yiqi by the end of this.
I'm like, is my brain in place? Did I like put my thinking cap? I have all my tongues right over here. Oh goodness. Anyway, Ercheng Tong, citrus and pinealia combination. So I have a great story about this because, you know, it was the advanced clinic, and we had, you know, we were in the clinic, and we had to do the, you know, pattern diagnosis, treatment, blah blah blah. So, and Leslie comes in, and I'm like, you know, it's big tongue, moist, greasy white. I mean, just beautiful, lovely woman who is, you know, the patient. And, you know, it's really puffy and swollen. And I'm doing one of these, like, I think it's citrus and pinealia. I'm thinking citrus and pinealia. And I'm thinking, what if I'm wrong? And I got it right. And Leslie was like, good, you saw it. It's so good. So I actually, this formula sticks in my head. It's like one of those, yay, I got the test right with this formula. Oh, so great, such great memories. Tongue, moist, greasy. I'll show you a greasy tongue. White coat. It can be puffing. It can be swollen. The pulse is slippery, and that you can feel that. That is a pulse that you really can feel, that slippery pulse. So where did I put this tongue? So number 13, right here. My handy dandy little greasy white coat, moist and puffy. There you go. Right there, greasy white, moist and puffy. Okay, good pinealia, citrus and pinealia combination. So the signs or symptoms or the history, you know, they'll come in, they may have a cough with some dampness in there, a little is rolling around in there. And they definitely have a cold spleen and stomach. So so the digestion is off. They'll feel fullness, like nothing ever really goes down. They feel you know, they feel like they feel very full up here in the top part. And they may have some nausea. They may actually even vomit because it's not, the digestion isn't moving downwards. They'll feel listless and heavy. They feel heavy. They might even say, my legs feel heavy or my arms feel heavy. They'll have mucus. They'll definitely have mucus. Sometimes if things really get stuffy in the chest, they'll have palpitations because there's just so much pressure, right? And that really can happen. Good for upper respiratory tract infections, really good for chronic bronchitis. I use this along with another formula, a Machiocha formula for a goiter. I actually saw a goiter. So sometimes what happens is people will come in and they'll have goiter and they'll say, oh, this happens to me. I don't know why. So they'll say, you know, they'll have like goiter, hyperthyroidism, or nodules on their thyroid and hyperthyroidism, and they'll say, you know, I don't want to lose my thyroid. I don't want this or I don't want that. You know, is there something you can do? And I say, well, I don't know. Let's try. So I have used this formula for, you know, for some thyroid issues in combination with another Machiocha formula. I have to look at my notes, but I remember that because it was interesting. They had the tongue, and they had like a lot of fluid, right? They had the big tongue, the swollen tongue, puffy, and they had these other issues that were in the story, right? They had this kind of mucousy cough. They had, you know, a real problem digesting and feeling very full in this upper part of the upper burner. This is a root formula. So basically, you have Pinellia, which Bancha, which is the predominant part of the formula, and then the fresh ginger, the baked licorice, and the fuling, and then the citrus peel. And then you can add to it. You can add 6 gentlemen. You know, you can add formulas to create 6 gentlemen. You can add herbs to make warm the gallbladder, right? So it's a great base formula. I don't have anything else to say about it. It dispels phlegm, dries damp, regulates the chi, harmonizes the middle, harmonizes the upper stomach and the spleen. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Oh, so many. This is Luijun Zutang, 6 major herbs, or the 6 gentlemen. This is a very commonly used formula. It's a premier chi tonic for spleen and stomach. So this is a real earth element kind of formula. Pale with white greasy coat. And we already kind of saw that, but I think I have another one that's even a little bit more greasy. Where did I put that? Oh yeah, this one. I want to show you this because this was like ick. Of course, we would never say ick in front of our clients, right? I really liked this tongue for this issue, you know, and you can see how there's the crack, the digestive crack, and the kind of the vacuity kind of sinking in right here in the stomach and spleen area. So that's like a perfect tongue for that. Like really good. Okay. So the pulse is weak, it's soft, it's kind of, you know, fluid, kind of a little fluid. So this particular formula tonifies the chi, tonifies the spleen and the stomach, clears phlegm and mucus, and promotes appetite. Because usually if you have all this phlegm and this mucus and it's inside of your body, you kind of feel like a balloon, you kind of feel like a stuffed balloon, right? So you kind of lose your appetite. You know, it's really interesting because sometimes like people will think, oh, they have a pale tongue and they're really tired and they're low energy and their stools are a little loosey and they kind of, you know, they feel full. I'm just going to give them 6 major, and they don't check the appetite. Remember how I said that whole appetite thing back there? I learned you gotta check the appetite, because if they have a robust appetite with this, and part of the stuffiness is because they're overeating, it's not the right formula for them. But you have to, so if you corroborate the tongue and the pulse and you get the story and the history comes in, just double check their appetite, because their appetite would be a little bit on the, I just don't feel like I want to eat because I feel stuffed, you know, it's like nothing's going down, or they just have so much fluid in them, really, basically. So the root is the 4 gentlemen, right? And then you add the 2 herbs to get the 6 majors. So this is definitely one of those you want to have in your formulary. I don't have anything more to say. I just want to make sure that we can get through all the formulas, because we're at number 15 and we got to get through 25 and it's 7:07. So I'm going to just keep.
Right. Okay. I do want to add that Nancy is totally right about the making sure that you ask your clients about their appetite. I can't tell you how many practitioners I've been to telling me that I need to take 6 gentlemen, which on the outside it looks like I do need it, but I have a very healthy appetite, and me taking 6 gentlemen makes me hungry all the time, like
Right.
ravenous. So make sure you check that because you could be giving this to someone and they can be gaining weight and you're very confused as to what's happening. And so check that appetite.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, and you have to remember too, right? This is traditional Chinese medicine was created for the people, right? And in China, a lot of the people are outside working in the fields. You know, they're not sitting at desk jobs and, you know, like we are today. So, there's a little bit, it's different, so you just have to remember there's a little context here. Right. Michael says, there are the 10 questions you all should include in your intake. Appetite is one of them. That's right. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Right. Okay. Bamboo and poria combination. Warm the gallbladder decoction. Wendon-tang. Harmonizes the liver and stomach, transforms phlegm, calms the shin. It's an expectorant. It's a sedative. It's really interesting, but I've actually used this formula a lot more than when you first learn the formula, you think, when the heck am I going to use that, right? You'd be surprised. I actually use this formula a lot more than I ever thought I would. So let's just take a look at the tongue, white, greasy looking, that greasy look. And I think I have another one. Oh, I showed you some greasy tongues, right? White, greasy tongue. It's so funny. Ugh, I love this book. Okay. White, greasy tongue, white, greasy tongue, white, greasy tongue, right? White, greasy tongue. So, yeah, you want to make sure you have that look. And then the pulse will be slippery. But it'll be not slippery and weak. It'll be slippery, right? Slippery with a little bit of force to it, like a little bit of wire to it. And so what comes with it is phlegm, mucus. There's mucus somewhere, like sinus, mucus. They spit it up, they huck it up, or every morning they're kind of like, I know. Why am I being so disgusting right now? I'm so sorry. But it's true. I mean, people, and so here's the funny thing about the mucus thing is a lot of people don't even know they have mucus, right? What Pammy and I talk about this, she works in a bank in an office during the day, and people the funniest things, right? And because we're TCM practitioners, we're like uber keyed into these kind of habits that people don't think about, like snorting and hucking up mucus, and then sometimes when you reflect back to your person sitting in front of your client and you say, so you have mucus issues, they're like, what are you talking about? I don't have mucus issues, but they're like sitting there hucking up mucus right there. So sometimes they'll know it and sometimes they won't. Oh, right. Michael says, Wendon-tang, great for invisible phlegm, misting the heart. So he uses it with his homeless people, emotional problems. Yes. Yeah. That was the last formula. It was really, that's very true about that formula. Yeah. So I've used this formula a lot. So the way that it says in Bensky, gallbladder resulting in a lack of courage, it actually isn't how it shows up for me. So how it has shown up for me, where I've used this formula and gone, wow, that was amazing, is they'll say something to the effect of like, I feel ambivalent. I just don't, I'm at work, I used to be driven and I just don't care anymore. And they're older, they're getting older and their diet is off, and you can see the phlegm or you see the mucus in some conditions, but the tongue really shows it. This is definitely greasy looking, and they'll say things like, every winter I get bronchitis, I have anxiety, I have insomnia, I'm just, I can't stand up to my boss, I just don't have it in me, I wish I could, but I can't, kind of thing. And that they may feel actually tight around the midsection, or they may even occasionally say, I feel restriction, like restriction here. So, and I'll see like they'll have digestion issues, definitely. They're not always timid. So in the text it says timidity. And yes, sometimes that's true. But for me, how it really strikes, like Americans, you don't see a lot of, I don't see a lot of really timid Americans. I see a lot of timid Asians and people from other cultures, but not Americans, and certainly not American women. But how it shows up is that it's almost like, let's say this, they just won't stand up for themselves. They lack this ability to stand in their own personal power. And so when I see that, and I see, you know, these other patterns with it, I'll use Wendan Tong, and it is like amazing. All of a sudden, they're not, it's not like they get aggressive. It's like they just can like say, this is my boundary, this is what I need, or they'll say to the boss, it's not okay for you to ask me to do that anymore. You know, it's, you know, it's inappropriate, or, you know, that's out of my scope of, you know, of my job description, and you need to ask someone who, you know, or something like that. So it'll clear up that phlegm. It really, really does. It transforms that phlegm. It's like that whole phlegm piece goes away. Yeah. Okay. Penelia and Magnolia, Bansha Hopotang. The tongue is white, moist, greasy. The mouth will be sticky, almost like not dry, because some people will say, I think my mouth is dry, but they're not thirsty and they don't want to drink. So it might be that and then just say, you know, is your mouth sticky? Like it feels like you have something like a stickiness in there. And they'll say, yeah, it's more like that. Let's see, number 16. Oh, here it is. Right here. Oh yeah, so good. This is greasy. You see how there's a sheen or a shine to it? And you see how it's swollen like that? This is definitely a Bansha Hopotang tongue. And it may not be that white, but it's definitely shiny like that. And definitely, you know, swollen like that. And sometimes it'll be so swollen, there'll be teeth marked too in it. So this regulates the flow of qi, clears the phlegm. It treats esophageal spasm. You know, anytime where they'll, and there's also like, you can have a little plum pit with this too. Not always, but sometimes like this can clear a little plum pit where I can't just get it down. It's like stuck right here. Pulse is wiry and tight, or wiry and slippery. You'll corroborate that greasiness with the slipperiness in the pulse. You may feel that too. They're blocked in here, right? They just can't get it down. Difficult swallowing, can't swallow pills. They're like, I cannot get, don't ask me to take a pill. I cannot get that down. They'll have phlegm with a cough. They may have winter bronchitis that comes back every single year. They may have spasms in their esophagus. That's very uncomfortable. It's a little scary when it happens. But this is really effective for that. Penelia, Magnolia, Perilia, Poria, and fresh ginger juice. It's really classic formula. It's always good to have one or two Penelia formulas in your formulary. Okay, number 7.
Nancy, sorry, there's a question about Wendan Tong, which is also applicable, I think, for Banja Hoputang. Will a Wendan Tong person have a tight throat or a sensation that the throat is getting tight when they're trying to stand up for themselves?
You know, for Wendan Tong people, yeah, sometimes they'll feel choked up, sometimes. But sometimes it's more like, because Penelia, Banja Hoputang, they definitely feel a little like, I cannot get this down, right? And they feel always choked up, and they won't wear anything around their neck. They don't want anything around their neck because they feel like that. But with Wendan Tong, it's more like an inner sense of, like the people that I've given to that I've had really good success with, it's more like this inner sense of giving up, you know? So like they're like, They're like, they don't want the conflict. They don't know how to deal with the conflict. And they're like, okay, I'm just going to give up. I'm not going to even have that conversation, you know? So, so they, it's almost like they kind of swallow it, but it doesn't, they'll swallow it to here, but it doesn't go any farther. It like stays right here. So like Wendan Tong, because it has like a gallbladder effect, you know, it gets to about here and it stops, right? It's not like they're like living their whole being, you know. I find sometimes when somebody has gallbladder issues, I'll use Wendan Tong where I see emotional issues with the physical gallbladder issues. So there's a kind of, I think there's a big emotional component to Wendan Tong, as well as like the mucus piece and the, you know, and the phlegm piece. Whereas Panilia, it really is, they literally, they cannot get it down. They can't get it down past here. It's like right here. And you know, they'll have like plum pit, or they'll have esophageal spasms, or they might throw up a little bit all the time, almost like that. It's like it doesn't drop into the stomach. Whereas Wendan Tong kind of goes a little bit lower, but it's like it gets stuck right there, right in that middle burner. So it's like upper burner, middle burner. So Panilia is more, you know, clears the phlegm here. But it's funny because the Wendan Tong, like I found, like the word timidity is kind of like not quite right. It's like lack of boundaries, not standing up for oneself, you know, lack of the ability to assert oneself gracefully. So, and when you don't assert yourself gracefully, you can get a little nutty, you know, almost like a little victimized, a little bit like, you know, this, you know, why do people treat me so bad, and, you know, internalize that. And they're not, it's not as if they're like emotional and external about it, but it's sort of like this, like, you know, I'm not going to stand up for myself because, oh my gosh, you know, it's, you know, I'm not going to get what I need. I'm not, you know, there's a lot of that with that formula. And it's funny because when I start to ask, you know, how are you in your world, when I'm asking them questions about the emotional questions about their life, if I start to hear that, and they have congestion in here and they have mucus, I'm like, oh, Wendan Tong. And it's like really good. This is like, yeah. I feel like I'm not really, I feel like I'm not really doing as good of a job explaining it as how it is, how it is now, how I experience the person. It's almost like an experience of the person. Yes, they have these physical signs, but there's this kinesthetic experience of the person where I think they need some Wendan Tong just to like stand for themselves. Whereas with the Panilia formula, it's more like they can't swallow it. You know, they can't get it down. You know, they're not getting it down. So, all right, moving on, because I'm like losing my mind over it, going, I'm just not getting it right. Okay, Gentiana, Longdon Zhurgun Tang. Beautiful. Clears heat and fire from the liver, gallbladder. So there's heat here. So you're going to see redness. You're going to see yellow if there's a coat, right? Clears heat from the triple warmer, from the sun gel. This is all three. Clears damp heat from the liver. Of course, there's a red tongue. There's a yellow coat. Ooh, I had a really good one. Found a phenomenal one that was like, oh yeah, that's the one. Of course, my light's not so good. It's this one. Long gone. Signs and symptoms like cystitis, and then look at all the swelling back here. Genital itch, pelvic inflammatory disease, ulcers, testicular pain, prostatitis, lymphoditis, you know, when lymph glands swell, especially in the groin, if you have big lymph glands in the groin area. Hepatitis, of course, acute cholecystitis. So there's heat, there's inflammation, gentiana, Longdansao, Scutellaria bicalensis, Gardenia, Alyssima, Akebia, unprepared Rhamania, Shengdi, Dongui, the tails, Dongui Wei, the tails, Bupleurum, and licorice gunsao. So this is great for infection. So this is something I have a lot of in my formulary. It's contraindicated for those who are weak. All the people we were just talking about, they wouldn't use this formula. Okay. Yeah. Especially, and if they're like delicate, and yeah, just be careful with them unless they have all this heat and fire and it's in their liver and gallbladder channels, right? Yep. Okay, next, please. Thank you. 18. Duho and Loranthus. Is that right? Oh no. Did we Duho yet? No, we didn't. No. After Gentiana is Curculago. Urgentong. Yeah, Urgentong. So this is like a key menopause formula. It's great base. You can build off of it, right? It's a good alternative to Rhamania 8 or Bai Wei Duangwan. Especially if Rhamania 8 is a little too hot and damp for somebody. The tongue is pale, the pulse will be thin and a little bit rapid. There's yin deficiency and there's false heat yin deficiency. So you get that a lot in menopause. You'll see that combination. You'll say, well, there's heat, but this person's so yin deficient, and that's the false heat. The yin not moistening and not cooling. So regulate the Chong. So those are the root. This is a reproductive organ formula, right? Conception vessel. Clears deficient fire, nourishes the yin, tonifies the yang of the kidney. So the yin and the yang. It's a nice balanced formula for both. 18. Put 18. Oh, I'm almost through all my little. 17. There's 24. Where's 18? Oh, there it is. It's all the way at the front. Oh, yeah. Pale tongue. Nice pale tongue right there. Okay. Yeah. So some of the history that would go with this, that you would think, oh, this formula, we should think about this formula as irregular menstruation, breakthrough bleeding in ages of women ages in their 40s to 50s. Maybe they have ringing in the ear, a little tinnitus. Maybe they're starting to lose some muscle. Like they'll say, I'm working out, but my muscles are not as defined. They're starting to just kind of get a little flaccid. They're atrophying a little bit. They'll have cold feet and hands. They may have some backache. They may all of a sudden they may stop menstruating, so they may have amenorrhea. They may have a shift in their blood pressure, so they may get hypotension or they may get hypertension. And they may also start to get urinary tract infection. So we see that a lot in seniors, right? And people who are older. And as they really age into their 70s and 80s, urinary tract infections become really common. So there's a piece of that is supported here in this formula. Epimedium. So epimediums, yin yang yo, yin yang ho. That's the horny goat weed. So there's that herb is in this formula. Morinda, Anna Marina, and philodendron. Nice. Yeah. It's also called old man's formula for prostate, ED. That's Rhamania 8, right? Rhamania 8 is old man's formula, right? Erectile dysfunction and Um, okay. Du Ho Zhisheng Tang. I use this a ton in my practice because I, have people who come in with all kinds of joint pain and pains in the extremity, issues with, joints and legs. Their legs aren't strong. They have pain in their legs. They have pain in their arms. They have pain in the joints. This is a premier anti-rheumatic formula. Of course, this is a cold and damp stagnation. So it clears wind, cold, damp, tonifies the liver and kidneys. Of course, the liver, rules the sinews. So there's a piece of that. Tonifies the qi in the blood. So it's a big formula, really, really big formula. So Duho, Qinjiao, Fang Fang, that's your wind. That's the clearing the wind with Fang Fang. Shizhen is wild ginger, which grows all over the place on my farm. It's too bad I'm not there anymore. Sangjisheng, Duzong is a comia, Nuizhe is acaranthes, and Rugui, cinnamon bark, Dongui, Tuanzhang, Shudi, Baishao, Renshen, Fuling, and Gansao. So gigantic formula, but it's been used like this for a really long time, and it's very, very effective. Sometimes depends on the person, how big they are, and how much cold they have, cold, damp, stagnation, and wind in the joints. But sometimes it'll be anywhere between 3 to 6 grams a day for somebody. It's a very, very effective formula. And we already saw the pale tongue with the white coat. So you would see that, pale tongue, white coat, pulse is weak, pulse is thready, complaining about their joints, complaining about their cold joints, right? And that they feel better once they get warm and moving, right? And it may be some dryness too in the joints, but generally speaking, there's definitely wind. Okay, that is a standard formula, and you don't have to dress her up. You can just play her that way, baby. It works really good as is. I use it straight like that all the time. So go ahead. So the next one is probably one of the most famous TCM formulas in America, because Yin Chao San, or Yin Chao, is often used for colds and flu. Of course, this is invasion of external wind heat, so there has to be heat signs. It has a diaphoretic and antiviral aspect to it. It relieves toxicity and clears internal heat. So the tongue should be red. It could be normal, but the tip of the tongue has to be red. And you may have a thin white coat, because again, or you could have a yellow coat too. Yellow is more indicative for Yin Chao versus Gan Mao Ling, but this formula is a standard, and I recommend having it in your practices, because you're going to need it fast. Somebody comes in and they fit the bill, respiratory tract infections, cold, influenza, flu, fever alongside, so they have fever and chills with more fever than chills, headache, thirst because of the heat, right? A little sore, they'll have soreness. So again, going back to your foundation classes, whenever there's heat, you're going to have a little bit, the throat's going to be a little more sore than if it's cold, right? Could be very rapid acute bronchitis. It could be, pneumonia, early stage, meningitis, early stage encephalitis, and it is the standard for cold and flu, and especially flu. I wanted to show you the tongue, because I found a really good tongue. So 20. Oh, here it is. You know what? It's not so good anymore. But it was really good, but you know what? You can't really see the yellow because my light is so poor. Anyway, we'll try it again. So there has to be at least a red tip, and the tongue body itself could be normal looking color, but there should be red on the tip, or it could be a red tongue fully, but you should have a yellow thin coat, or some kind of a coat that's white to yellow. And that's it. So honeysuckle, forsythia, platycodon. Platycodon is such a beautiful herb. It goes to the lungs, right? Burdock seed, field mint, boha, schizonepta, and prepared soybeans, black bamboo leaf, phragmites, and gunsow licorice. And it's literally been around for, I think it's something like 1,000 years or 500 years, or it's crazy amount of time, and it is standard. So get it in your clinic and keep it there. You'll use it a lot. Okay, poria, Wuling San, poria fiber combination. So it's strengthens the spleen, it's diaphoretic, it clears edema, it's a diuretic. It's a simple formula, but again, this is probably your main diuretic formulas. You can use diuretics for blood pressure issues, but you can also use it for pitting edema. The tongue, of course, will be it'll be pale, or the white coat, and it'll be moist, and it'll be swollen. We saw a couple of those, but I think I have another one for you, which is really cool. So 21. It's getting late here. Here it is. Yeah. Oh, this one's really good. There's two. There you go. That one too, but this one really. That's a lot of fluid. And sometimes it's really like that. Emily said, is this the formula you were talking about earlier that you said you used before using buchlorm? No, that's called a 5 purifications pill. You know, so it's sort of it's a purgative too. So Pammy, do you remember the opinion for that formula? I'd have to go look it up.
I'll look it up, and I will post it in the chat box for everybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I forgot the opinion for that formula. I just call it the 5 purifications formula. And the only reason why I knew it is I was in a class, I can't remember which class it was with Michael, but I remember lying on the pillows. I was like dead. I'm like, oh, 5, and my notes say 5 purification pill. And then it said, in China, they start with us. That's what my notes said, but I didn't write the opinion, so I'm sorry. I think I'm having one of those I'm exhausted days. I should remember that part. Okay, so the pulse will be floating. It's definitely going to be slippery. So you'll feel the moisture in the pulse, right? It could have a soggy feeling to it. So how does that feel? That's different. So slippery, you have some action to it. Soggy, it's not moving as much, so it's a little heavy. So the story that comes with the history that comes along with this particular formula, or you would think of this formula if you heard took these notes, you'd have edema, you'd have headache, you'd have a little nausea, and you'd feel full, right? And when they drank water, the water comes back up. Now, it says in the text vomiting, but it's not always how it presents. So how it really kind of presents is like they drink water and it splashes in their stomach, and they're kind of like, it doesn't quite go down. It's like this, like, what's going on here, right? So sometimes they will vomit the water, but most of the time it'll be like, I drink water and it's like it splashes, right? So, and I've heard people say that. So, and then I think of this, right? They'll have urinary retention. If it's really, really bad, they have ascites. Now, ascites is like the whole abdomen fills with fluid, and it's actually a very dangerous situation to have ascites. Or they might be like, I just don't pee enough. I pee once a day and I'm drinking all this water and I feel like a big balloon. They'll say that to you. They may have gastritis. They may have headaches too. The headaches would be more like there's so much fluid in their body and there's so much pressure. So it's like a big pressure headache. They may actually have liver cirrhosis or something really wrong with their liver. They could have enteritis. You wouldn't see that in somebody, but they may just have edema, right? Their legs may be really swollen. You'll look at their legs and you'll touch it and it'll pit, right? So you press on it, it turns white, and it kind of makes a dent, and you'll be like, okay, that's a lot of fluid. Urinary difficulties, water retention, sensation of heaviness. They're going to feel heavy. They'll just feel heavy, right? And they'll say that, I just feel so heavy. I feel like I can't move. Wu Wei Zhao Du Yin, 5-ingredient decoction to eliminate toxins. That's it. That's the 5 purification pill. Perfect. Thank you, Erica. Good job. Excellent. 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 Oh, we're coming in for a landing here. Good, because it's almost time, right? Remove blood stagnation below the diaphragm. Gercha Zhu Yutang. Okay. Purple tongue with spots. Oh, I have such a good one for you. You're gonna see this, you're gonna be like, that's so disgusting. All right, where's my purple tongue? I had it all ready. 21, 21, 22. Where's the purple tongue? Maybe it's over here. So it's really interesting because sometimes blue and purple is like this. It's like this. It's not like blue, purple, right? It's like right? It's like this nod toward blue, nod toward purple. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like full-blown blue and purple. So I'm getting this purple tongue for you because this is a really good, because it also has the macula. And the macula are really, so I want you to see it because you don't often see this, often. You can, but I don't often see it this way, but this is a really good. So you see that color, and then you see the little spots. So it's a really good purple. Pammy, did you have a blue tongue at one time? Did we find that you had a?
Yeah, I've had blue come and go over the years. It's
a coldness.
It almost looks like it's like old meat. You know? I feel like it almost looks like it's old meat. Like it's like a bluish, like there's just something not quite right about that red, that so it does tend towards the blue, but it's not like going to be like, you know, like real sky blue. It's just
right.
Yeah.
It's right. It's not like blue. It's like
Yep.
Okay. So this is circulate the chi, move the liver blood, relieves abdominal pain. So you can tell this is going to be some heavy duty, something's not right, right? The pulse will be tight and it may hesitate or actually skip. So, you know, those are not good pulses when you have skipping in the pulses, right? So you feel the pulse, it'll go pulse, 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 pulse. So that's called regular, you know, regular, irregular. And then you have irregular pulse, right? So, so that hesitation, sometimes it's just like it's a little late coming. Sometimes it just disappears altogether. So with this particular formula, you want that pulse and the tongue to corroborate. So you really want to see the kind of the purple, the stasis, so that's stasis. And you want to feel that tight hesitation because the blood's not moving, right? And it will reflect in the pulse. So it's fixed stabbing abdominal pain. They'll have hard spots in the abdomen. They'll have chest pains like angina. They will be crabby and worried, you know, like concerned. Erica, I'm just another herb dork. Join the club. Jen, Formula One, thank you. That's so great. Thank you for doing that for us. They'll have terrible indigestion. They'll have constipation. They're going to have hypochondriac pain. If it's a woman, they'll have painful, very painful menstruation. The menstruation may even stop and they're not bleeding, but they're having the pain of menstruation and no blood because it's blocked, right? The liver blood is not moving, right? They'll have breast distension, and they may even have like hard lumps in the breast or in the abdomen too. So you're going to move that, right? This is a big mover. I have only used this formula once. Yeah, but it's a profoundly brilliant formula, you know, for blood stagnation. Great for women. Dongui, Persica, Ligusticum, Wulinzer, which is of course feces. And we don't have those. Well, lots of those are not in the formulas anymore. You can get them, but you don't need to. You know, the squirrel feces, Carthamus, Lindera, Corydalis. I love Corydalis. Such an incredible pain herb. Red peony, mouton, bitter orange, and then gunsel. Really incredible blood mover and relieves pain. Okay, next one. We're almost there, folks. Thank God, right? Oh, this formula, I have a gallon of this formula as a tong, Zufu Zuyu tong. This is a formula I use a lot in my practice. I don't know how this happened, but moves blood, relieves pain. That's the purple tongue one again with the macula, right? You have cystasis. Sometimes it's sublinguals that are like that too. So, sublinguals. I have those sublinguals there too. Yeah. Really good sublinguals in this one. So
yeah, and if anyone wants to see really good sublinguals, shoot me a text message. I've got some good ones.
Yeah, Tammy has some good ones like this. So you see that, and they would go all the way up with that. So you know, this one's, see, that's actually varicose. That's varicosity. So, but yeah, so you have that. You'd have that there. Right? Pain in the head, pain in the chest, stabbing pain in the chest, poor blood circulation, fixed and sharp pains. They'll hiccup a lot. They'll have anxiety. They'll be very irritable. They're not going to sleep well. They may have coronary artery disease. They'll definitely have angina. They may have rheumatic heart issues, like, so they may have had a virus early in life and now their heart is just never been the same. It's weak, but they have pain. They may have had a chest injury, and they may have had concussion. So Zufu Tong, so I had a case, an incredible case. So it's a woman in her mid-50s, colon cancer, treated for colon cancer with both radiation and chemotherapy. And the chemotherapy damaged her heart. And she had coldness and stabbing pain in the heart. And I used this formula and it was unbelievable. She was like a different person afterwards. Phenomenal, phenomenal formula. I love it. I keep it around everywhere. Persica, safflower, dongui, ligusticum, red peony, acaranthes, bupleurum, platycodon, bitter orange, and unprepared romania, and gunsel. Really amazing. You know, some TCM acupuncturists use it for cancer, which kind of, you know, it kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't make sense. It is amazing for relieving pain. Sometimes I'll add Corydalis to this for more pain relief if they're having really stabbing pain in the chest, like, and it's making them really scared about having a heart attack. If they're not, I mean, if they're not having a heart attack and it's just agita or angina, which sometimes it is just angina, you know, I'll use the formula and it really just is incredible. So it's really good formula. Okay, and we only have 2 more. We're almost done.
Yeah, and we're at 7:47, 7:48. So
Yeah,
we'll have enough time to finish and then do a couple of questions.
A couple of questions, yeah. We did good, Pammy. Miao-san. So this is it's a Duijiao. 2 effective ingredients, clears damp heat, right? So yeah, if it's got heat and it's damp, you're gonna have a greasy yellow coat on the tongue. And you really do need that. You're gonna see that, right? The pulse will be rapid. The pulse might be a little squishy, a little soft, but you definitely have that rapid of the heat underneath, right? Philodendron and black Atractylodes. What can you say? It's like phenomenal for things like pain in the knees, pain in the lower back. It's used for athlete's foot and tinea pedis. It's used for possible urinary tract infections with scanty yellow urine. It's used for eczema too. It's used for infections in the lower burner, so like gonorrhea, that kind of thing. You know, where you have yellow discharges. Yeah. And then, last but not least, Ziziphus. Swanzhou Rentang. This I use a lot of. It's I have a lot in my form. I love the tongs, and I'll get like gallons of them from 5 Flavor Herbs. Ben will have them, and I have them around. Nourishes liver blood, clears liver heat. This is probably one of the better insomnia remedies, and that's why I have it around. You know, and I'll fiddle with it. You know, I'll add herbs to it, or I might, you know, add a whole nother formula to it or with it. But it is really, I depend on it for insomnia. You have to have a red tip on the end of the tongue, and you might even have a pointed heart tongue, you know, and you might even have a little, that like presentation of the really long pointed tongue, what we call the heart tongue. Often you'll see that, and you'll definitely have the red on the tip of the tongue, and you'll have insomnia, right? So restlessness at night, can't get to sleep, or I fall asleep, but then I wake up and I'm restless, nervous, anxiety, sometimes a lot of weird dreams or excessive dreaming. And not necessarily, you might feel like a little woozy, right? The person will say, I'm not quite dizzy, but I'm not quite myself, like I'm woozy. Palpitations, they'll be dry in the mouth and dry in the throat, and they'll complain of that too. And this is another one that you can use during menopause. So you might use it with your other favorite menopause formulas. You have a daytime menopause formula and nighttime, and this could be your nighttime because it's really great. It does reduce irritability too. So Swanzhou Ren, Poria, Ligusticum, Anamarina, and Gansao. So really great. I think there was one. I think I did find a really good tongue for this too. 25. I think it's my favorite book of all. For tongues. 25, 24. Didn't find it. I don't know what I did with it. I have just too many of these things. Yeah, I don't know. I think I did find it, and it was like perfect, and now I don't know. I must have lost my little 425. Anyway. Yep, here it is. Yep, Pammy shaking her head. Yeah, that is definitely, that's a Swanzhou Ren tongue. And it really does look like that. Yay, we did it!
Woohoo!
We made it through. Well, we did 25 formulas in 3 hours. Holy cow.
And we took a 20-minute break, so that's really astonishing.
Really good. Not too bad. Thank you, everyone. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to write them up in the chat. And I hope you enjoyed this. It's not easy, this 2D world, right? This whole, you know, so I hope I made it interesting to some. I mean, you know, it can be very dry and boring, and you know, I know you all have had your, you know, tongue classes, but I thought maybe kind of showing you the tongue pictures would help, you know, keep it lively. So it was fun to see you all, and I wish we were all together in person so much. I miss my herbal family so much, and my herbal mama and papa. But we're doing what we're doing to take care of ourselves. So.
We miss you too.
Oh, I know, Leslie. It's terrible. Next year.
Next year.
I hope so. Yes, we're going to see it that way. Absolutely.
Nancy, you're anything but dry and boring. You are the most vivacious, lively teacher, and taking a class like this can really be dry and boring. And you just did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. That's very meaningful.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking the class to check up on you. I was taking because I've been doing this 40 years, and I always have to learn and relearn and relearn and relearn. So here, the reason why I pipe in is because I'm remembering these things as we go along. Not to interfere or correct you at all. You're phenomenal.
Oh, thank you,
It's
Michael.
an honor to have you with the East West School. I hope everybody recognizes what a great teacher you are.
Oh God, I was talking to Leslie just before because I said teaching just nourishes me, and I've had a really hard week, and I couldn't wait. I was so excited, and just to be with everyone and share this incredible knowledge. And I don't, you know, I'm like, sometimes I think I'm such a hack. Oh God, you know, I'm in here like a crazy person with all my herbs and whatever, and calling my friends and
There's
Tammy,
a name for that.
you know, and Susie, and
watch out for that creeping imposter syndrome getting the best of you.
Yeah.
Everybody gets imposter syndrome.
Isn't it awful? My brother and I talk about that all the time, the imposter syndrome. It's devastating to, you know, making sure you're just present to your patients and hearing them clearly. It's like they are why I do this, and it's all about them. But sometimes I'm like, do I have this right? Thank God we have each other. Because Pam, how many times have we called each other and said, well, what do you think about this? And yeah, and that's the other thing. So I just want to say that I always call my herbal sisters and brothers, you know, because sometimes I'm not seeing it clearly, or they might say something and I'll think, oh God, yeah, right, crap, I forgot about that, or you know what, I think that is a better course of action. And you know, it's just that kind of support is there's no price you can put on that.
That's right.
Yeah.
We had some really intermediate students this time.
Yeah,
No,
and
amazing.
and we have a couple of clinic-related questions if you have time for that, Nancy.
Oh, sure. Okay, so I see Erica said, what form do you usually give your herbs? You combine them yourself. It's really a mix. I don't have a lot of raw herb here because I'm juggling a lot. You know, I have a full-time corporate job, and then I see my clients, and I'm more about the clinical part of it. So I often will write up the prescription with Camwo or with TCM herbs or with 5 flavors. They'll make formulas for me and drop ship. But there's a lot that I have here too, and I have a lot of powdered herbs that I'll mix. So I think a lot of the mixing that I do for herbs are either tincture or powder. And you know, oddly enough, this is really, I don't know how this developed in my practice for me, but I will mix a lot of Western herbs into formulas because we don't have a lot of classic Western formulas, you know, like we do have classic TCM formulas, right? So I often find myself mixing Western herb into formulas. Whereas we have the formulas in TCM and they're tried and true and they've been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So So I often will, those formulas will be pre-made, and I'll either hand them to them, you know, either as a san, or I used to use tea pills a lot, but not so much anymore. I think I used a lot of tongs and a lot of sans, and I put those together here, or I drop ship them. So, and then what was the other question I saw? Have you treated dishydrotic eczema with damp heat and spleen chi deficiency? I've seen a lot of different kinds of eczema. I've also had a lot of psoriasis. Had a very interesting psoriasis case in here recently, and did pretty well with it. It's not by formula, it's by pattern. So, and it's about not just one pattern, but usually there's 2 and sometimes 3 patterns, especially if it's a really advanced case. So I always take it, you know, I always take it case by case. I'm actually better with eczema and psoriasis than I am with acne, to be totally honest. Acne is, please, somebody, it's not my thing. I'm a pretty good dermatologist herbalist, but acne is like, I'm like, you got acne? I'm running in the other direction, you know? I'm like, oh my God, don't come here. I don't know, it drives me crazy. This is not easy. Acne is so difficult to treat, but eczema, there's really great, wait, I have it. So, all right. I'm in my office with some of my best books. So, yeah, Manual of Dermatology and Chinese Medicine. I love this. I love this book, and I have done some kick-ass dermatology with it. And this is so good. This one was case studies in dermatology. This actually helped me a lot with dermatology, with more advanced like eczema, psoriasis. So TSAM case studies in dermatology. So this was phenomenal. Yeah, this was yeah, I did some great stuff with that. Let me see what else do I have up here on derm. Oh yeah, Siono and Lou, they're pretty good in derm. Disorders of the skin. Yeah. So, but just make sure you get the pattern right. Did that help? I didn't really answer your question, did I? Hopefully I answered your question. They can be tricky. Just really, you know, be really consistent, you know, and hang in there. I'm feeling like if anyone has any more questions.
You raised a really good point, Nancy, which is that all practitioners have blind spots or areas that they really do well in and other areas they don't. That's just normal.
You know, I'm like such a woman's woman too. I mean, I love men and I love working with men, and my brother's like my best friend too. And my dad, you know, I miss him so much. He like walks on water still in my life. But I'm like a woman's woman, but I'm like so bad with pregnancy. It's like, oh, don't come see me for pregnancy. I send him other places. It's not my strong suit, you know. But if you've got a long-term weird disease, you know, infection, or no one's been able, like untreatable orphan disease, come see me, I'll figure it out. It's just my thing, you know. It's like, and so and Susan and I were talking about that, because she said, so what would you call yourself? And I would say I'm probably a pretty good epidemiological herbalist. Pretty good. Would you say that, Pam?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd include Lyme in that.
Say that again.
So really, you're a strange disease expert.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Very necessary.
So Nancy, we have a couple more questions if you have time. One of them is Leslie Ann. I hope I just said your name right. I apologize if I didn't. I wanted to know, with seniors who have UTI, why they lose their minds and get nervous anxiety.
That's so when that happens, so they're getting UTIs because, you know, the sea of marrow is drying up. So, and the sea of marrow is where we make white blood cells to manage, you know, manage our infections, right? So as the sea of marrow starts to dry up, And as the energy starts to collapse, right, things start to move down towards, stagnation, fluid stagnation starts to happen in the lower burner. But also there's that whole, the sea of marrow is really, really impacted. So then the memory goes. So, but remember this, the bladder and the kidneys are together, right? So they're paired organs, and our kidneys have like a huge effect on and connection to that sea of marrow. That thing that is that I love that whole concept of the sea of marrow and the connection with the kidneys. So that's why you get addled. Like, and even young women, when they have urinary tract infections, they're a little not right in the head, right? They're like little nutty, right? And it's that huge connection. And even men, when they start getting prostatitis or they start getting having issues with HPP, they even start to say, and I just am not thinking clearly, or they start to become a little mentally lethargic. So that's the thing, kidney and bladders are paired, and there's a huge relationship between the kidney essence and the sea of marrow, and that's where you get that kind of loss of mental strength and that connection with UTIs. Does that help?
Oh, I think that's a great explanation.
Machiocha.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I didn't make that up. I looked into that because I have a lot of people who, I see a lot of seniors too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who get weird stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
excuse me, I'm sorry. There's a principle of Chinese medicine, which is always look for the deficiency. Because if you're just treating the disease and somebody's deficient, they don't have the energy to use the herbs to treat the disease. So you have to treat the constitution, the deficiency, along with the disease. And when you do that, you're giving energy to the treatment. Now, older people, there's always going to be deficiency. You always have to add at least qi and blood, at least astragalus, a little dong quai or ginseng, and then the herbs that you're using to clear the infection will take hold and maybe even hang in there. But so that's a really important thing. And in the cancer talk this morning, I was, when I first learned that cancer is a deficiency disease, when I keep seeing otherwise healthy people with cancer, I was really amazed because it answered one of the great confounding questions I always had about cancer. So treating blood is really, really important.
That's great. Thank you for adding that, Michael. It's great insight.
And speaking of deficiency, what is your preferred formula? This is Erica asking this. What is your preferred formula for spleen qi deficiency? What?
Hi, two puppers. You ruined my blanket, you jerkwads.
What? Someone accidentally maybe unmuted themselves here?
Yeah,
Karen
somebody
did.
unmuted.
Okay, they're remuted. Okay. So Erica wants to know, what is the formula or herbs that you like to use for spleen deficiency with robust hunger? That you had mentioned to look at appetite with Guipi Tong and Six Gentlemen. So do you have a formula?
That's kind of a funny question because
yeah.
Well, so it's like so if there's robust hunger, so if there's fatigue, or if there's spleen qi deficiency, but there's robust hunger, then I've got to look and see, I've got to look deeper and see if I'm not seeing all the patterns and I'm not seeing the whole picture correctly. So for me, it might be that this spleen qi deficiency, or the spleen vacuity is not, it's not the root, it might be a branch issue. So I've really got to dig a little bit deeper, because that, the thing with Guipi Tong is there really should be no appetite. That's really key, because like Pam said, and that's why we were talking about Guipi Tong the other day. It's like, oh God, the mistakes made, of like giving this formula because there's fatigue, right? There's real fatigue and there's real deficiency here. and yet there's robust appetite, like almost out of control appetite. So there's something else going on, and you need to really figure out what that root is, because if you give the Glutathione, they're not going to get well. They'll feel worse maybe in some way. Does anyone else, Leslie or Michael, and Pam, have anything to say about that? I mean, for me, that's how it strikes. It's like, so it's not just like a formula, but it's, you've missed a theoretical concept, or you've missed a pattern, or you didn't dig deep enough in your taking your history.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well.
Beautiful. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I had such a ball with all of you. I hope we get to do it again soon, and I hope I get to see you all next year as advanced students. Keep going, keep at it. Yeah. Pammy, thank you so much. Great to have you. Michael and Leslie, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for teaching your incredible class. Oh my gosh, you're such a great teacher. And Pamela, a great moderator here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Great
Quick
dreams.
reminder to the students, make sure you do your tests and complete that, and take care of all your pre-recorded webinar tests and all that jazz before the end of May. And thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome. Bye.
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 Bye. All right, I just stopped recording.